on the Wednesday afternoon, and I'm sure for many, the main event of the whole festival will be the Queen Mother Champion Chase, the rematch between Shishkin and Energumen. I'm not prepared with my prices here, so Flynn, quickly, how do we bet the two of them, please?
Of course, very off the cuff there, very off the cuff of the prices.
Listen to that, look at that.
Yeah, here in the Champion Chase. So, Shishkin is 4-6, Energumen is 11-4, Chacun Pour Soi 6-1, Nubenegra 10, Fernando de Savola is 14, and then your 16 bar.
There you go, I caught myself out and I caught you out. There we go. Let's hope someone isn't caught out in this race, though. What a race it is. You've picked up a spare. Which one did you get on and why?
Or either one of them.
No, afraid not.
I've always been Shishkin. I'm not going to desert him now. He's just an incredible horse.
How do you buy into the argument of if Energumen couldn't beat him at Ascot, he's got less of a chance of beating him at Cheltenham?
I wouldn't say less of a chance. You know,
would you say he's got more?
No,
with the hill?
No, they lined up at the tape in Ascot, and just a better horse won. There was, there was a step left or right between them, I feel. So, I don't feel that he's got less of a chance. I think Shishkin has concreted his, he justifies favouritism for sure, but it's a step left or right, and Energumen could, he's definitely the one to do it. But Shishkin doesn't step left or right. He's rock solid. Look, there's a slight thing there. Has a tendency to go a little bit left. He should be better left-handed. If Shishkin is better than Energumen, which we don't know around Cheltenham, then he would be around Ascot. Then he just beats him further. But we don't know that. So it is a worry that Energumen hasn't been to Cheltenham. As we all know, it's a specialist track, or it's an advantage to have form there anyway, for sure. So for all them reasons, it increases Shishkin's chance of winning the race, and he's got everything.
Yeah, I mean, a Supreme Monarcho, if you want Cheltenham for it, doesn't come any better than that, does it? Bill, let me chuck this one at you. Okay, so again, we're talking about two great horses, which one will win, but we come back to the how will we get one of them beat, if you see what I mean? Because both jockeys are thinking, how will I get him beat? And the bookmakers are thinking, how will we get one or both beat? So we're all in a sort of a similar argument along the way. The other one being chucked at me quite regularly at the moment, and I do think carries weight, is that was one of the most phenomenal races you will ever have the privilege of watching at Ascot, okay? Both horses put it all on the line. They went hammer and tong all the way round, and they had a proper battle. But has that battle left its mark on either of them or both? And I think in terms of getting a result at Cheltenham from a bookmaking fraternity, that would be the most likely way of it happening. And this is going to sound silly, I'd like to lay the forecast. No, I'd like to lay the forecast. But every bookmaker would like to lay the forecast. But I don't think they'll finish 1-2. I think one of them at least will leave its race behind slightly. I think something will come and split them, if not beat them. But I think Shishkin will likely win the race. He'd be who I stick with. But thoughts on the Ascot race leaving its mark?
Yeah, it's a runner. It's definitely potential it could leave its mark. I mean, the funny thing about Shishkin is, I agree with Davey. Shishkin's definitely the one. He does plenty wrong during his races, but it's what he does between the last and the line. A la Altior.
This is the best horse in the back of the last.
I mean, I go back to a race, Davey, cover your ears, when Shishkin came and did Abracadabras. Everything went right for Abracadabras. Everything went wrong for Shishkin. He was wide. He had plenty of ground to make over the last.
It's a good point. A bit like Paul Townend getting told off that day on Benny to do it.
But Davey pinged the last, literally pinged the last, and Shishkin just finished off his race. And he's so strong between the last and the line. It's such a great asset, and of all the tracks to have that asset, here is the major place. When we preview this at Christmas time, I put up Nubenegra as the danger to them, but just because of the way he'd be ridden fresh, if the ground was good, he'd be trying to pick up pieces. The worry is whether the pieces are so far in front of him, because Nubenegra has to take a big step forward. But he was very unlucky in the race last year. He's the each-way play. Of the leading ones, I'm definitely with Shishkin. I can't see any way of the Mullins 2 closing that gap. I think he's just going to improve. But there is the doubt over Ascot, so the bet for me would still be Nuba Negra each way, because I agree with you. I don't think they're going to finish 1, 2, 3. Someone's going to fluff their lines, and I think Nuba Negra can run really well.
Let's discuss Chacon, because we've talked about him in millions of Zoom rooms over the year. I've never really been a big fan. I think you've always had slight question marks around him as well. This jokingly earlier said a touch of the B4 Salmons of calves up grade ones in Ireland, but come to England, he got beat in the Queen Mother. It was very disappointing in the Tingle. Do you see any reason for him to produce the form that he has done in Ireland at Cheltenham this year? And why didn't he do it last year?
No, he just doesn't seem to be able to travel. He just doesn't. We were saying it was a Cheltenham thing, and now it seems to be a travelling thing.
For people who don't know the horses as well as you do, kids get car sick in the back of seats.
Yeah, exactly.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't know how much they fret. And you put Tiger Roll on a lorry, and he grows a hand. He loves travelling. He loves going over to Cheltenham. He grows. And other horses just can, either stay the same, they can get better, or they can get worse. Chacon Pressoir obviously was very poor in Sandown. That's a long way behind from what he actually shows in Leopardstown. So, you're trying to say that, I'm not saying I don't know Chacon Pressoir, but I do know that when he gets on a ferry, he's a lot worse.
But could you not bring him over a week earlier or 2 weeks earlier? Would that play with their routine even more?
Well, that's it. You see, he seems to be happier at home. Maybe what you could do is you could fly him over on the day.
I was going to say, why wouldn't you fly him over on the day?
Yeah.
I think, and that they might do. You never know.
You never know. And
they might fly him over.
That's the beauty of our sport, is that, I'm sure Rich Ritchie is willing to do anything to nullify the disadvantages, to turn them into advantages. So,
because maybe he just doesn't like the sleepover. Maybe he wakes up in the morning and they fly him over. I mean, the other thing about Chacon, he didn't run...
Didn't they do it with... Didn't they leave Watchcolumn at home till the very last minute? The horse that won the Ryanair, Rich Ritchie's horse. Tour, didn't he miss his ferry up?
Ferry over. Yeah,
well, not miss his ferry up, miss his slot.
That was the year they bought one over too many that wasn't even running. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Didn't they leave him very, very late?
I don't know.
And then he won the Ryanair because he was in such bad form at home, and they left him at home in his paddock where he lived. So his surroundings were fine up until. So maybe again, look. I'm on it. It's the second guess.
But this injury, we don't get that insight. You just think they're there, but they're not. It's got to
making the point that last year he didn't run terribly last year, and then when they came to the second last, you were kind of thinking he was the one to beat. Still travelling, and he showed the kind of vulnerable Chacon, and he didn't find much between the last and the line.
He's a 10-year-old now. Are we really considering him to take on what looks like to be the race of the festival? Are we dismissing Envoy Allen?
He's going to run here, isn't he?
A bit early, yeah. I think Envoy Allen could be the one to split him.
We've not quite seen the Envoy Allen we saw in his earlier career.
No, but is it maybe taking a bit of time for him to get over them little niggles that he had to change a yard, different things, and maybe we're a year and a half down the road now, and it could just be the one to pop, to be on song.
Because the point that I made when we previewed it at Christmas time is it depends when they get racing. They could get racing very early in this race, just because of the style of horses in the kind of lineup.
Yeah, but I think that's why it suits Shishkin, because let them get racing early. Let them get racing late. It doesn't really matter because he's behind the bridle. Nico rows away in him, and all of a sudden he just hits turbo. Yeah.
Well, let's go to the Ascot race, because I think it was well documented. That was one of the busier race, probably the busiest non-festival race I think we've ever had in the office. I mean, what were some of the bets we took that day? Can you remember off the top of your head?
360,000 Energumene at 6-4. And then we had plenty of doubles on. It was a day that John Bon won, so we had loads of John Bon and Shishkin doubles. Yeah. It was by the time we got to the race, it wasn't a great race for us because we had Energumene for a chunk, and then we obviously had Shishkin was a taker in the book because of all the doubles and multis running up. Just quickly, while we touched on that race, because there was only a length between them that day, I just want to plug our Cheltenham offer, which is if you finish second, beating a length or less, then you'll get your stake back up to 100 quid. So that's our pipped offer.
100 quid, not a tenner.
100 quid. So so decent little stake there. I think when I get onto my point here is that it's all just been mentioned by the guys here, so there's not a huge amount for me to go to. But I think that the shape of the race is going to be really interesting because Shakan last year they said that they didn't go quick enough, so they're going to want to go quick, and Nurkamine wants to go quick, so that could set it up for the closers. Willie's not going to want his two taking each other on, which will be interesting. I think, like Bill, Nubinegra's a solid each way bet here. I can't have him bigger than Shakan Poursoir. I just think that he goes so much better fresh, and Skelton's done that here. Could have won the race last year.
He ran really poorly in the Tingle, didn't he, as well? Anything come from that?
He needs breaks between races. They ran him back too quick, so that was
hence the long break back.
Hence the long break back. Yeah.
Okay.
One point I was going to make that we haven't mentioned is Willie's come out and said about Shakin about training him differently, as in he normally arrives at Cheltenham 100%, and he's going to bring him to Cheltenham a little bit undercooked rather than overcooked. And that's his kind of. I think he mentioned 80% rather than 100%, just as a new way of trying something different at Cheltenham, because obviously he gets stressed.
I think 110% Shakan would struggle to beat Shishkin, so an 80% one would top price Shakan, please, Flynn. 4 Shishkins.
I'd be Nubinegra each way.
Of the two, sorry.
Oh, of the two, Shishkin, yeah.
4 Shishkins. And then the playing, I would just back Shishkin to win the race. I just think he's the best horse in it comfortably. I think he'll win the race. You're Shishkin, and you're both Nubinegra fans each way, yeah? Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. That's the Queen Mother.